Welcome back to Beers and Bush Trips. Tonight we're starting leg 4 of our trip across southeastern France. It's one of the longer legs, 52 miles. It's going to be the longest one we've done so far. Not the longest one in the whole trip, but we're taking off from Bayonne to Herrera. Last night as we were landing at Bayonne, it looked like there were some nice mountains just to the south of us, so I think we are finally going to be getting up into the mountains. So looking forward to finally getting back up there. So Bayonne is a town of about 41,000 people. Average about 125 feet above sea level. It's kind of known, I guess, for a large number of beaches that are popular for surfing. And there's a lot of seaside resorts, and I think we saw this last week. There are a lot of sports complexes, tennis courts, a lot of resort recreation areas. So first thing, since I've learned a little bit, we should probably check our flight plan. Because it does not seem to hang on to the settings here. So let's just see. We are taking off. We are at runway 7, heading east. As you climb, follow along A63 known as Auto Route des Estuaries. Estuaries, okay, interesting. So LFBZ is what we're looking for in the nav log here. So let's click in. What did I say it was? LFBZ, I think, right? LFBZ, great, okay. There we are, okay. Alright, let's do a direct to, enter, activate. Alright, let's get back to our flight plan. So it looks like we're going to be taking off at east. And yep, that checks out. So let's close this up here. So this is Beer and Bush Trips, the show where I drink beer and fly airplanes. And we're going on a little world tour. Well, not a world tour, but we're going on a tour across France. I picked this bush trip after some feedback online. On Reddit, on the Flight Sim forums, people were asking about some of the best bush trips, and this one continually got recommended. Let me get in position here, make sure we're all set up. Okay. Alright. Runners are on. Right. We're good. Takeoff flap set. Got plenty of fuel. And without further ado, I think we'll set off. I have to say, I absolutely hate the rudder pedals that I have. I have those Thrustmaster TFRP rudder pedals, and I don't think anyone has ever had a single good thing to say about them, other than that they're cheap. And God, they certainly feel like it. If you don't hit the CDI button down here, you don't get your GPS on the compass. Alright, yeah, we're heading straight for the mountains. So first thing I'm going to want to do is climb. I think I'm going to be able to gain enough altitude. What's our best rate of climb here? Let's get flaps set. Flaps are up. try to climb at about 80 knots or so. So yeah, I'm on the hunt for maybe some more a better set of rudder pedals at some point. Probably not anytime soon. But see, the problem with these is they're just really they're really sensitive in all the worst ways. Like if you touch it just a little bit, nothing, 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 and then boom, full deflection. It's kind of tricky to get the hang of. You set a pretty large dead zone on them in Microsoft Flight Simulator, but they're still just really tricky to get the hang of. So there's some of those sports complexes we were talking about down there. That looks like maybe a soccer pitch, something like that. There's that big donut-shaped building back there that we were looking at on the way in. And I think, yep, so it looks like we're following the A63, which is right below us here. Call it the auto day estuary. Let's check. Also known as auto routes day estuaries. Continue east until you come across another motorway. Okay. Which is the A64 and a small roadside lake. Alright. So, let's see what we got here. So I think this is our A64. Little highway interchange down there, which means there's probably another highway that this is linking up to. So adjust your heading slightly northeast and rejoin the flow of River Adour. Follow the waterway's course until it bends northeast near the quaint village of Oort. Okay. Alright, so I'm gonna try to, I think I'm gonna climb out to about 2,500 feet and start to see it's like a 64, and then start to see if we're looking like we're gonna collide with any mountain passes here. I think 2,500 is a pretty safe place to put it for now. Alright, small inland lake. I didn't see the inland lake. However, our POI did change, so I think we just continue following the A64 for a bit until we end up at our inland lake. Let me get back on course here. Alright, we're at 2,500. So that's where I went wrong. I should have been following that river the whole time. So we're going to turn straight to that river and we're going to follow it. That's exactly what the instructions said. I just wasn't understanding them. It's a cool little island just in the middle of that river. Huh. See that? I mean, it looks like a pretty narrow river from up here. I'm guessing it's probably a little wider than you'd think, but it is interesting that there's just a little island right in the middle of it that splits it in half. It's kind of cool. Does anyone else like the scratches on the windows, like the pre-rendered scratches on the plexiglass windows on the cockpits of a lot of the planes in Microsoft Flight Simulator? This one's got two pretty gnarly ones right next to the storm window. And it's cool for immersion sometimes, but for sightseeing, man, it's just an eyesore. And when you're in VR like I am here, it just really, I don't know, it messes with my head a little bit. I kind of wonder if there's something on the lenses when I'm looking out or something like that. I know some of the add-on aircraft, I think, let you choose kind of the state of the plane. Like you can either have a nice, fresh, clean, factory new plane with no scratches, or one that's been used a little bit. Be nice to have both options. So what do you guys think is coming in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024? That's well, we still have almost a year wait. I think it's coming out near the end of the year. But I'm looking forward to having more missions. Actually, it seems like most people are less interested in the mission stuff. I'm kind of more interested in it because I really liked engaging and playing things like NeoFly and Skypark. But I wished that those features were a little more integrated into the game, and that there was a little more variety. And that, you know, there was a bit deeper integration into the sim as far as, you know, activities and the actual types of jobs you had to perform. So I'm kind of looking forward to a career mode. I feel like it's going to be sort of like Flight Simulator 2020 with a career mode add-on. Though they did say that they are really overhauling a lot of the sim. They're making some pretty significant performance improvements, apparently. I think the big one is that they are sounds like they're going to be able to utilize more cores in a processor. One of the big things with really most simulation games, most flight simulation games for sure, is that they're pretty single thread dependent. That means you could have, you know, an 8, 12 core CPU, and it's pretty much just banging on one of those cores and can't really put any of the others to use. So if they can find a way to, I guess it'd be multi-threading it. It's not really like a thread, it's really splitting it between cores. So I don't know if multi-threading is like the right word for it, but yeah, if they're able to put more of those cores to use, I'm sure we would see some pretty significant performance improvements from that alone. So it's getting a little colder up here. We dropped to 10 degrees Celsius outside air temperature. It's probably because we're just up a little higher than we usually were, but I assume once we get into the mountains, it's probably going to get a little chilly. I don't think I can open the storm window here, can I? No. Maybe at some point, maybe not on this trip, but maybe at some point I'll go ahead and modify the bush trips and put a different plane in here, maybe one of my third-party add-on planes, and try to do one of the bush trips with that, because they're just, man, we're spoiled for choice right now. There's so many good third-party kind of small GA planes available. The A2A Piper Comanche is a rock-solid, very feature-rich add-on. I still like the Just Flight, the Piper Arrow, and the Turbo. That's a great plane too, still fun to fly. And Milva's Blackbird, they did the 310R. That's another one of my favorite planes. So I might pick that, and the Bush Fox. Or the Kit Fox. I might pick one of those, modify a bush trip and try it in one of those. Should I pick something that's super unpractical, or try to find something that's sort of like the suggested plane, but maybe a little bit nicer than the built-in plane that it gives you? So I'm back on cider today. I went with the, so Angry Orchard has a few of these different flavors of cider. They have the original, which is like the blue label. Sounds like scotch now. They have the blue label, they have the green label, it's the green apple. And then they have this rosé one, which is like pink. And it is by far the most tart cider that I've had from Angry Orchard. So I'm really enjoying it. I think I talked last time about my love for really tart drinks. Okay, I have not been paying attention to my altitude, and we're down at 2,200 feet. Let's remedy that. And let's see what our next set of instructions are. Adjust your heading northeast, rejoin the flow of River Adour, follow the waterway's course until it bends northeast near the quaint village of Oort. Okay, so we should be coming up on this village of Oort here. I'm going to leave this up for a little bit. I hope you guys don't mind. Because if I don't leave it up, I forget to look at it. And that's just not helpful. I'm thinking this is our little village here. So the village of Oort is a village and a commune in the Pyrenees Atlantics. Atlantics department in southwestern France. It's part of the traditional province of Labourd. 2,000 people. Pretty small village. Looks like mostly farming and stuff. I mean, I'm sure it's all farming down here. Alright. So just south of Oort, you'll find the A64. Let's see here. You guys see another major highway? Kind of meandering back and forth to try to get a peek here. Oh, right below us. Alright, so here's the A64. Looks like we got some traffic on that today. Huh, I wonder what that blue house is down there. It's interesting, huh? Right below the do not step sign. Something agricultural. Alright, so we're following A64 until it bends northeast near the village, right. The route will carry you over the tributary waters of the Bordeaux River toward a small roadside lake, Lac de Semay. Alright, been in the air for about 15 minutes, so one thing that's kind of interesting with these bush trips, it pretty much starts every single leg of your trip at the exact same time from what I've noticed. So we're always taking off at 10 o'clock UTC. So if you ever forget to set a timer, like I always do, you can pretty much just round to the nearest hour that you remember seeing when you took off last time. That's probably when you took off on this trip. So I've done, this is my fourth video here, and the first few I didn't really get very many views. I don't think I got any views other than a few friends I was telling about it. But when I looked tonight, I had like 30 some odd views on one of my videos, so if there's anybody actually watching these, I don't trust that anyone's sitting here at this point watching these things for like 40 minutes straight. But if you are and you've made it to this point, drop a like or something. That would be kind of cool. No, I'm not just out here talking to myself. Not that there's any problem with that. I do this kind of for my own enjoyment, but really the reason I started doing this was because about halfway through the last bush trip, I was just flying it solo, now recording, and it got kind of lonely. Actually, there was just a thread talking about this on Reddit. The bush trips get kind of lonely. You don't really see people online doing them in a lot of the areas that the bush flights take you. And yeah, it just gets mad lonely sometimes. So I actually started talking to myself the last bush trip a little bit. And I was thinking, well, might as well just try to record this if I'm talking to myself anyways. I guess I'll try to record it and see what happens. So that's what I did here. And that's why it doesn't really matter to me if anybody ever watches these. This has kind of become, over this past week, the last few days I've been doing this, it's kind of become an interesting little outlet for me, because I'm going to fly after work when I get home at night anyways. And now it's just kind of an extra thing to look forward to, just sitting around, getting some things off my chest, telling some stories. So there isn't really much of a format, but it's really a lot just my own personal enjoyment. Alright. Small roadside lake. So yeah, what's that? Roadside lake right up ahead there. Okay, so that marks our next turn, I suppose. This river toward a small lakeside, roadside lake, right? Just beyond this lake. The A64 will steer east. Okay. Stay with the highway past an airfield near Perhide until the road bridges the waters of Gave de Hollande. Alright, so maybe there's another airport up here. I don't see the A64 anymore, which is kind of... I guess that's the A64. It sure doesn't look like a highway, does it? But that does kind of look like an airport. I don't know, maybe we're in the right spot. What heading are we supposed to be going? 157. Okay, yeah, so we already passed that. So we're on our next set of instructions here. Follow the river south. After a short distance, a small rivulet will run off toward the east, but you should continue along the westernmost main branch. The Gave de Hollande will guide you further south toward another confluence near Saint Martin. Okay, so we're following this river, just off to the right of us, it looks like. Well, directly ahead and then off to the right as well. There it is. Continue along the westernmost branch, okay. So I see the fort coming up here in a bit, so we're just going to follow this around. Let me try to get back on course a little bit here. We are definitely heading straight for the mountains, so that's pretty cool. Now the trick with the mountains is like you will want to kind of try to follow the rivers when at all possible, because of course water is going to run quite a bit lower in between mountain peaks, so you don't have to worry about climbing over a lot of terrain. Just keep around the rivers, usually. That was the case with Patagonia at least, so we're going to try that approach this time. And if we get into trouble, well, the answer there is to corkscrew. Turn around, go in some circles, gain some altitude, and come back at it again if you ever get in a spot where you need a little more altitude to clear something. Whenever you do, don't just fly straight into the mountain if you're not going to clear it. So how's the audio this time? I noticed I kept struggling getting my audio levels set nicely. I always felt like I was competing for volume with the engine noise in Microsoft Flight Simulator. So the first video and second video, I just kept increasing the gain on the microphone, and I realized that wasn't such a great approach. So this time I set up a compressor. And what that does is it basically tries to get all your audio levels up to, one consistent peak volume. It kind of makes the softer things a little louder, and it makes the louder things a little softer until everything is kind of in the middle. But it also lets you add some gain. And it seems like the gain that you get from a compressor isn't quite as nasty as just cranking the gain directly on the microphone. I think I got my volume a little better, and it should sound a little more uniform, and I turned down the volume in Microsoft Flight Simulator. So, see how this one turns out. Every video I got it a little better, and I think I'm really happy with it now. We'll see how it goes. These must be the famous French Alps. Oh, we got the river forking to the west. I think we're going to follow that west, right? So let's peel off here. Darn it, I really want him to keep heading right towards those mountains. So we'll just follow that sucker around. Stay with the highway. Okay. Line will guide you further south toward a confluence. Okay. We're down here now. At the river confluence, well, does that flow southeast? No. Yeah. Flows the branch to the southeast, right? We are following the correct branch. Continue tracking the waterway towards another confluence near the small commune of Arajuzon. Cool. I think I saw on the setup screen that I think the altitude where we're landing is like 4,000 feet. So now that I'm thinking about it, I probably am going to want to climb a good deal more if the ground is 4,000 some odd feet. But here's the thing that kind of screws me up. When you set the weather to anything but real-time weather, just like the bush flights do, bush flights change the weather, and it's not real-time weather, your altitude settings are completely different than like the information you would find online. So I don't know if that holds true to the map screen where it said I would be at 4,000 feet, because I don't know if that's assuming 20.92 inches on the barometer. It's always the tricky thing. Alright, it's been about 20... It's going to flip on the fuel transfer pump, and if someone could remind me to flip it back off before I drain the entire right wing, that would be great. Another confluence near the small commune. Okay. Alright, so that should be like dead ahead of us. This river's going to split again, basically. And next time, we're going to, let's see, looks like we're going to be turning easternmost branch. We'll lead southeast over the town of Navarenix, eventually delivering you at another confluence. They love this confluence where the Navlog has some really interesting choice of words. I imagine it was just an interesting way that it got translated. Confluence would be kind of a strange word to describe a fork in a river, unless maybe I'm not understanding what they mean by confluence, but... Or I guess two forks joining would be more like a confluence, maybe. Alright, our right tank is starting to catch up with our left here. Let that run for another few seconds, and let that back off. So what do you guys think of the new add-on DA42, the new Diamond twin, light twin that came out? That's another add-on that I've had my eye on. Looks pretty sweet also. Kind of a fan of Diamond aircraft now that I've been spending more time in this DA40, so it would be nice to have a light twin option. There's the DA62 in Sim, but again, the add-on aircraft always tend to be of higher quality a little bit, right? Alright, looks like we got two rivers that we're tracking. There it is, okay, so there's the river split. So we want to follow the easternmost branch. Which is kind of interesting because the map has us following the more southern branch. Weird. You know, as much as Navlog, sometimes the directions don't make any damn sense at all. I swear they're wrong, or I'm just not understanding them. Like, I think I would really struggle with that one bush trip that's just in the Savage Cub, where you don't have any flight management at all. Maybe I'll get a little better at doing this by the time I tackle that one, but I think I would struggle quite a bit with it. How do people feel about using autopilot for these bush trips? I mean, it's got a pretty sophisticated autopilot system, right? You could definitely get away with just setting autopilot and letting it do the work. I don't think I used it at all on my last bush trip, and I haven't used it here to use my witness. I could see some of this stuff being a little more boring, particularly if you're not doing something like I'm doing where you're navigating it and pointing out some of the sites and stuff. I could see, even the last one, there were some long stretches of just going along water side. It does get kind of boring. But if you're only navigating by navlog, that would get super confusing if you step away and let autopilot fly, and then you'll got to figure out where the heck you are. Okay, so I think we are heading into the mountains soon, which means we're going to need to think about climbing. Head southeast over the town of Navarenx. Okay. This is the town with that weird name that starts with an N, Navarenx, eventually delivering you at another confluence near the commune of Prek. Okay. The weird town that starts with a P. Follow the waterway branch moving east and then southeast. The river will bring you to the first century town of Olorn. Ah, it's a cool historic town. I'm going to have to look that one up. A first century town, super historic. That sounds kind of interesting, huh? I almost feel flying over like the Midwest of the Americas doing this. Just so much patches of farmland. There's a little bit more communities, all sort of grouped together here. The little towns and stuff. In the Midwest, it's pretty sparse. Civilization. There's a little more of that going on. You definitely don't see mountains like this until you get over further west near like Colorado, but yeah, that's kind of what it reminds me of. Just some clouds doing weird stuff that clouds do in Microsoft Flight Simulator. That would be a nice thing if they could make that not suck so much in 2024. Here's kind of the weird thing. The clouds were really good. I remember them being really nice. Like in the beginning, when I started playing Microsoft Flight Simulator, like around, I guess I picked it up around 2021, and they just looked spectacular. And then they went kind of downhill, and they just look a little weirder. You can see a lot of the voxels. That's those kind of blocky looking parts of it. And you don't really feel like you're in them sometimes, unless it's really dense cloud cover. You don't feel like it's, like a permeable object that you're kind of passing through. It just sort of feels like a layer, a filter. I don't know. I think the thought most people put out there was that they kind of dumbed down the clouds a little bit when they brought this out on Xbox, so that could handle it. I don't know if that's true. That would make sense, though. I think the time frames kind of align with that too. Right, this is our first century town of Olorn. Probably a lot of like cool old architecture here. Maybe we'll go look some of this stuff up and maybe do some screenshots of this here. About 33 minutes in, so I'll try to find this timestamp later and maybe paste some pictures of Olorn, because this sounds like kind of a special town. Olorn Santa Marie. At the heart of Olorn Santa Maria lies yet another river confluence. Follow the branch leading southeast, and in the distance you will begin to see Herrera Airport. Prepare for a left approach and land on runway 7. There's some very specific landing instructions on this one. Usually the nav logs are just like, yeah, land on runway XYZ. We actually have some approach information. I don't know if it particularly cares what runway you land on. I think you could technically land on any runway, but sometimes you have to kind of scamper to the other end of it if you landed on the wrong side for it to register at the end, I mean. I haven't really had problems with that. The bush flights have gotten a lot better in a lot of ways since I first played them, like in 2021. The fuel management was kind of an issue in the beginning. You weren't given just a full tank of fuel like you are. Speaking of fuel, shit, okay, turn that off. You weren't given like a full tank of fuel after every leg in the beginning, from what I remember. And there's no fuel menu, see? So you had to bind a hotkey to repair and refuel, which I still have, I think, found on here. And sometimes it just didn't register landings unless you were at a very specific area of the runway. It seems like it's gotten a lot better with that too. I'm descending a little bit here because it sounds like we're coming up on our airport. This is what you'd call an unimproved airstrip. This looks like grass airstrips. That's an unimproved runway. So that means we're going to need to keep our eyes peeled a little bit, right? Oh, you know what makes me nervous a little bit? USR 24. LFCO. Let's take a quick peek at things here. Okay, so what I'm looking at, trying to see if we're going to hit any mountains before we get to LFCO. So I'm looking at the terrain map here a little bit. Make sure I'm not falling out of the sky. And I do see some darker green, although it's not really any darker than what we're flying over right now. And we're definitely not getting into any orange terrain. And it looks like, if anything, we can just kind of cut around it. So I think we're good to descend. All of that to say, can I descend now? I think we're good. So, I got one of these robotic vacuum cleaners. It's, you know, like the Roomba. It's a knockoff one. It was on sale on Amazon. I got it just to do the downstairs every other night. And I feel like it's kind of creating this rift between me and my family, this robotic vacuum cleaner. I know this sounds insane, but I kind of feel like there's a little bit of animosity coming from my partner over this, because I think he feels like, I think there's a few reasons. So I think, for one, he feels like I'm kind of using it as a cheap sort of way to get out of doing my household responsibilities, because he cooks and I clean, and that's kind of the arrangement. Now I just sort of replaced it with a robot. And I would probably be lying if I said that wasn't part of my idea, was to take the workload off myself so I could do more crap like playing video games here. But there is a real reason. I mean, it just does a better job keeping up with things than I can. I don't remember to do it, and I get involved in other things. So I think he feels a little threatened by my robotic vacuum cleaner. I think he's upset that it upsets the dog, because it does. It's loud and it chases her around, and I find it kind of funny, but she doesn't, and I think that bothers him too. I caught him unplugging the base station today when it was cleaning, which means it can't find its way back home. So I don't think he wanted it to recharge and go back home. I think he was sabotaging it. I call it Trevor. I gave it a name, and I think he also finds that kind of threatening, almost like it's sort of stepping on our family unit, our relationship here, just bringing in this other entity, this vacuum cleaner. So I'll keep you updated. I'll let you guys know how it's coming along with the vacuum cleaner, but right now I'm going to focus on landing, because I see our airstrip right up ahead. So I'm going to cross center right over the runway. It said a left-hand approach, so usually it's assuming I'm coming from this direction, so I think it's going to want me to, start turning left once I'm right over and follow the pattern, and land, from left to right here. Yep, That is a grass strip runway. I guess that shouldn't be surprising. This is like a really old historical town, and you're probably going to find a giant runway out here, and there probably aren't enough people to justify that kind of thing, huh? So we're looking for runway 7, and God, this doesn't even look marked to me. I don't even see any markings. I guess it's grass. How would you mark that anyways, right? So I have to say I'm a little disappointed. We did go over some slightly hillier terrain than we have on our previous trips, but we're so close but so far away from these mountains over here. Tomorrow night. Tomorrow night I'm gonna feel, I said this last time, but tomorrow night I feel like we're finally gonna get into these mountains off to the south of us. We flew around them a lot and we didn't venture into them, so let's try to line ourselves up here. Now this could get a little tricky because these hills, they're a little taller than they look. 3D terrain doesn't have me coming anywhere near them. But these can sneak up on you when you're trying to turn on, get yourself lined up and you're already descending. This could get a little sketchy. So I'm going to turn a little earlier than I normally would. I'm going to get a bit slower than I normally would, and we're going to try to drop like a rock a little bit. So I'm going to throw the flaps out. And I know I'm going to need to get on the power here a little bit. And we are going to start turning a little earlier than like I normally would. Now, 3D terrain has me covering them, but I don't know, I always feel a little sketched out getting this low and this slow, trying to land with a lot of terrain around me, so we're gonna go for kind of a shorter final than I would normally do here. Yeah, see, even on the final, there's some pretty hilly parts. It would suck to live in that house right on the path of this runway. Oh man. Okay. I don't even recall exactly how the runway was divided here, so I'm just going to go for the gray brownish patch right in the middle. And if we have to move things around a little bit on the ground, we're going to do that. Yeah, look at all these old cool buildings. So this is our town of, is it Orlorn? A little closer than I planned on. And there's some cool old architecture here, some old buildings with turrets and stuff in them. We're definitely going to get some pictures of this town because this is pretty damn neat. Okay, I kind of see what they want me to do here. So I am going to land on the green part. Yeah. Ooh, we are cutting it close, aren't we? Alright. Flaps down. So let's see what we can do here. Making it sound like this is this big thing, literally landing in a nice big open field. Alright. Wow, there's like a big crater right in the middle of that surface. Okay, I'm really glad we didn't land in the middle because it looks like there's some big craters right in the middle of this patch here. So we might need to drive around on the runway a little bit and see what happens, if it gives me the end screen or not. Yep, it did. Okay. 43 minutes is about 50 miles. And I guess we'll tomorrow night we'll see if we finally get in the mountains. Will I ever see mountains? Will this robot vacuum tear my family apart? I don't know. Tune in tomorrow night, we'll find out. Thanks.